2021 is slated to have one of the best coaster lineups we have ever seen when it comes to new additions. As someone who loves roller coasters and seeing new attractions get announced, I have compiled a ranking of the coasters I want to ride the most that are opening this year, which you can also look at as my best coasters of 2021 predictions. Before I get into my list, understand that it is entirely possible that a good number of these rides will get delayed until 2022. I would also like to make note that I will be excluding any coasters that are clones of another coaster that opened before 2021 or are relocations. Also, my list will be geographically unbiased, which is why you will see a lot of coasters outside the US make the list, as well as some notable US omissions. I also will mention that these choices are mine, and if you disagree with my placings, that is perfectly fine, and I encourage you to tell me what your most anticipated coasters for this year are in the comments down below, as it is awesome to hear and see different opinions. With all of that said, my name is Carrick, and I will be ranking my top 15 most anticipated coasters of 2021. This Intamin project, while very mysterious, is one of the more intriguing upcoming coasters. Not too much is known about the ride, but the renderings seem to show that this coaster will have a vertical launch in a compact layout that goes over and under itself. The rumored track length is also 2,300 feet, which means that this coaster won't be insanely long, which is not surprising for an indoor coaster. This ride will for sure deliver a very unique experience due to its setting and strange design, which includes this futuristic looking cylinder building that houses the ride. Because there is not very much information about this ride, I couldn't put this Dubai coaster project very high, but I at least feel like it deserved to be on this list. The first wooden coaster to ever come to the United Arab Emirates appears to be a good one. This coaster will feature some sort of world record for a wooden coaster according to the advertising, and while we don't know exactly what the layout will look like, a record-breaking GCI is certainly promising. I've been hearing that the ride will have an airtime focused layout as well, so when we learn more about this ride, I think I could have this ride higher on this list, but for now, I think Bombay Express is just a coaster I'm very curious to hear more about than anything else. This quadruple launch coaster will be one of the most unique coasters Premier Rides has ever done, and what stands out about Icebreaker is its layout, which features 4 launches, a beyond vertical spike rider's experience backwards, an 80-foot tall top hat that features a fantastic looking drop, and multiple great looking airtime hills that look to deliver some nice ejector airtime. The biggest question for me is how good will Icebreaker's pacing be, especially since it is being marketed as a family thrill coaster. If it keeps a great pace the whole time and most, if not all the elements deliver, then I believe this coaster will be one of the best attractions Premier has ever created. If the pacing and elements do not live up to expectations, then I'm sure the ride will still be one of the best family coasters out there and a really fun ride. So as I am uncertain of how great this coaster will really be, I have decided to put this ride at number 13. Fahrenheit at HersheyPark is one of my favorite coasters by Intamin, and it is a pretty well received ride among both coaster enthusiasts and the general public, and this makes it very surprising to me that Intamin has not built any more vertical lift coasters since Fahrenheit. At least that was until I learned about Barracuda. This coaster will of course feature a vertical lift along with 5 inversions, at least 1 airtime moment, and a few other elements. Judging from early concept POVs and construction pictures, Intamin seems to have taken Fahrenheit's layout and improved on it, which is great to see. If Barracuda is a success, it would be nice to see Intamin do more with their vertical lift model, but for now, I am definitely looking forward to hearing about how Barracuda is when it opens. One of the more under-the-radar coaster projects is this small SNS launch coaster that was designed by Joe Draves, who also designed Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom, Gale Force at Playland's Castaway Cove, Steel Curtain at Kennywood, and Max Force at Six Flags Great America. This coaster will feature the most compact layout of any SNS air launch coaster and will feature a track length of 2,723 feet. The new coaster will also feature a top speed of 62 miles per hour and a maximum height of 131 feet. For the coaster's layout, following the first launch, 10 elements will be packed into the compact and intense layout, with the most notable elements being a 131-foot tall top hat, a speed hill, a reversing dive loop, and 2 0G rolls. If you didn't know about this coaster before now, keep your eyes peeled for construction updates, as this is a coaster you will want to know more about. This long-delayed coaster is slated to become the world's first Dynamic Attractions SFX coaster, as it appears that the one coming to Malaysia will not open until 2023. As for Mission Ferrari, the theming, elements, and tricks featured on this coaster will help provide an experience that is unlike anything the theme park industry has ever seen. Mission Ferrari will feature a drop track, which isn't very common, a tilt track, which is another rare element, the world's first slide track or side slide, and a rotating turntable along with 2 inversions and state-of-the-art theming. If you want to learn more about this new coaster and the SFX coaster, Theme Park Horizons did a great video on Mission Ferrari which explains how that ride will work, so I highly recommend you check out that video if you want to learn more about the SFX coaster. In terms of themed coaster experiences, it looks like Mission Ferrari will set a new standard, blending a thrilling layout with amazing theming and some unique twists, which is why this Dynamic Attractions coaster cracks my top 10. This Strange Mock Rides project will be the tallest coaster the company has ever manufactured, as Hurricane Roller Coaster will stand at a maximum height of 203 feet. This launch coaster will also feature a layout unlike anything we have ever seen from Mock Rides, as the ride will feature a top hat, 5 inversions including this insane looking 0G roll, an Immelman, a vertical loop, and a Cobra roll, which will be the first one on a Mock Rides coaster. There will also be some nice airtime hills that should provide some solid airtime. My biggest questions surrounding Hurricane Roller Coaster are how will the pacing be, and will the first launch be more forceful than previous launches on other Mock Rides coasters? But even with those questions and uncertainties, this is still a coaster I look forward to hearing more about, and one I think more people should pay attention to. The layout of the Ride to Happiness is definitely the reason I'm very intrigued to ride it, as we have never seen a layout even close to this for a spinning coaster, which will make this ride very unique. My most anticipated elements on this ride are the beginning curved JoJo roll, which seems very disorienting, the banana roll, which is just going to be so weird to experience while rotating, the double inverting dive loop, which just looks absolutely insane, and of course the multiple airtime hills that should provide some great airtime. I just don't think the Ride to Happiness will be extremely intense, and I do not think that this coaster will feature the best pacing, as it is a spinner, which is why I have it at number 8, but I definitely think that this Mock Extreme Spinner will be one of the most purely fun rides coming in 2021, even if its name is very strange. The Vekoma Top Gun model was one that gained a lot of attention when it was announced a few years back due to the intense and fast-paced layout that it has. Many people have said this is Vekoma's take on the Intamin Blitz coaster, and since it has a great looking first launch, fast-paced inversions, ejector airtime hills, and rapid transitions, it's very easy to see the similarities between the two models. The most interesting element to me is the first element following the launch that appears to be an insane non-inverting top hat, but the other elements such as the ejector airtime hills and the 2 whippy corkscrews also look incredible. Like a few of the coasters on here, I do wonder how good the pacing will really be, especially if Vekoma decides to place trims on a certain element, and there's of course the mid-course brake run that will slow down the ride to some extent. But if the trims and mid-course brake run don't affect the pacing too much, I think that the Vekoma Top Gun could be a sleeper hit for 2021. Before I get to what I like about Abyssus, I want to give a shout out to the Vekoma Shockwave going to Dragon Valley in China that may open this year, as it has a shorter but similar layout to Abyssus and doesn't get any recognition. With that being said, I think that Abyssus is going to be one heck of a coaster that will be very intense and fast paced, assuming the trims don't trim it too hard. Really, the elements I'm looking forward to on Abyssus the most are the airtime hill following the vertical loop that looks like Ejector City, the Batwing that is going to be insanely intense and cool to go through underground, the twisted hill that should be both whippy and filled with ejector airtime, and the final corkscrew, which also looks to be a very whippy element. Like the Vekoma Top Gun, Abyssus is another coaster I have seen people compare to the Intamin Blitz, and with its amazing looking inversions and ejector airtime moments, it makes sense why, but I think Abyssus will be an elite coaster that stands well on its own, at least until it gets cloned. RMC really looks to have hit it out of the park with Jersey Level's layout. While the pacing of the ride probably won't match what the smaller Raptors are capable of, the pacing should still be very strong, and with how many airtime hills there are going to be, that is very exciting. I really like that RMC mixed in some of the better elements from the original RMC Raptor, with the nearly vertical first drop, the dive loop that provides airtime and a strong whip, and a turnaround element that will provide some strong ejector on the drop. I also like that they included some elements we didn't see on the smaller Raptors, such as that large camelback hill that looks really sweet, the 0G stall that should provide some nice hang time even if the train goes through the element at a quick pace, and of course that quadruple airtime hill finale, which will provide a great ending to Jersey Devil, which is something the first RMC Raptors lacked in my opinion. The addition of Jersey Devil will give Six Flags Great Adventure a legendary 1-2 punch, as it and El Toro both appear to be some of the best coasters on earth, and I absolutely cannot wait to get out to New Jersey to ride both El Toro and of course Jersey Devil. I imagine this ranking will surprise a lot of you watching who may have expected this ride to be in my top 2, and over the past few months my thoughts on this ride have been a bit inconsistent. But as of today, I just feel like I would enjoy the upcoming coasters on this list more than VelociCoaster, as I think they just have more wow moments and appealing layouts to me. But even with that said, I still think that VelociCoaster is going to be an amazing coaster that will likely have the best layout of any coaster that also has really elaborate theming, so I can understand why a lot of people have this as their most anticipated coaster of this year. I am excited to see what the queue line and launch sequences are like in terms of theming, and I am hoping we get some really incredible dinosaur animatronics on the ride. Outside of that, I also look forward to the extensive rock work, as it should provide a great atmosphere for the ride, along with some great near misses. In terms of VelociCoaster's layout, it looks very lengthy, which is awesome, and it should be filled with many great elements. Speaking of elements, the ones I am most excited for include the second launch, which definitely looks reminiscent of the second launch on Maverick, which I found to be quite forceful, the top hat, which I hope will deliver a great drop, the off-axis hill, which looks absolutely bonkers, and of course the final corkscrew, which should be taken at a decent pace. It definitely appears that Universal Orlando has found themselves an elite coaster that should please both theme park and roller coaster enthusiasts alike, so if this ride gets praised by some as the best coaster on earth when it opens, I believe it is well deserved. Iron Gwazi was my most anticipated coaster heading into 2020, and while it may not be my most anticipated 2021 coaster, I have no doubt that this ride will still be one of the best in the entire world when it opens. The pacing on this RMC hybrid looks flawless, as this ride has been flying through its test runs, which is very exciting, and I expect Iron Gwazi to provide an out of control and wild feeling ride experience. The moments I am looking forward to the most are the 91 degree 206 foot tall first drop that's going to be absolutely ridiculous, the Outer Banked airtime hill that I imagine should provide some strong sideways airtime, the death roll that should be an absolutely crazy moment, and of course that wave turn that we have seen Iron Gwazi fly through time and time again during the test runs. While we have seen a lot of RMCs arrive at US parks over the years, this one definitely has a chance to be the best in America, at least to me. And I imagine by the end of the year, many coaster enthusiasts will have this RMC masterpiece as their #1 coaster overall. As I said earlier, there are just a few coasters I think I will like better and that I am more excited about. I imagine placing Pantheon this high will be my most controversial and shocking pick on this list, but Pantheon has really been growing on me the more and more I look at the ride, and I believe I have good reason to place it this high. The reason I am excited for Pantheon is because of the ride's layout following the final launch going over the top hat, and these elements during this part of the ride are like an all-star collection of the best coaster elements on the planet. For that first drop off the top hat, since it is 95 degrees and doesn't appear to be trimmed, you are going to be absolutely ejected out of your seat during this drop, and I believe this drop will be absolutely outstanding. After the drop, riders go into this large turn that seems reminiscent of the one on Intimidator 305, and while this turn will not be as intense as the one on I-305, it certainly will be quite powerful as riders will blaze straight through this element. Next is the Outer Banked Hill that looks similar to the one on Steel Vengeance or Iron Gwazi, but in my opinion this one should be even more insane as Pantheon appears to absolutely haul through this element. The turn following the Outer Banked Hill appears to potentially feature a pop of airtime, which is nice, and it will lead into the 0G stall. This 0G stall looks like one of the best elements ever made for hang time as it is very lengthy, and it should provide a really long and sustained moment of hang time without losing its pacing too much, which is very impressive. The S-bend following the stall seems to be an under the radar moment for sure, as I think it will be quite whippy. The final element is of course the wave turn, and once again riders will go through it really fast, and it appears that it will provide a very nice moment of sideways airtime and a great ending to what I expect to be a world-class attraction. With the amazing collection of elements Pantheon has, it's definitely a coaster I have very high on my overall bucket list, and I cannot wait to ride it whenever I get the opportunity to visit Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Before we get to #1 on the list, I will provide a list of the cloned and relocated coasters that were ineligible to make the list that you can see here on screen right now. I also will show my list of 15 other coasters that look like they will be great but just missed the list due to either being heavily rumored to be coming in 2022 or simply not looking as good or interesting to me as the 15 rides that made this list. As you can see with the notable omissions, 2021 is going to be stacked with depth when it comes to coaster additions, and coasters that would normally place high on a list like this in other years are unable to make the list just because of all the competition. With all of that said, let's move on to my most anticipated coaster of 2021. This coaster absolutely blew me away when I first saw it, and if you were to ask me what my top bucket list coaster is, outside of Ejinika at Fuji-Q Highland in Japan, I would say it is this Intamin Mega Coaster that looks to be an absolute airtime machine, and quite possibly Intamin's greatest creation yet, which is saying a lot. Going through Kondaa's layout, it begins with an 80-degree twisting first drop, which looks very similar to the one on Expedition G-Force, which is followed by an ejector-filled camelback that is said to pull negative 1.3 Gs. After the camelback, riders will ascend an outer banked airtime hill that will feature some insane sideways ejector airtime. The next element is the world's first non-inverted Cobra roll that may provide a completely unique sensation, which is then followed by a speed hill that will also be an ejector airtime moment. Next is a tight low to the ground turn that will transition into the wall stall, which should give some nice sideways floater airtime. The ride will then go into an overbanked turn that should provide some nice positives before going into a barrage of airtime hills, which will include another ejector speed hill, the world's first side bank double down, which will have 2 banked airtime hills, and a 4th airtime hill, which will have more strong airtime. Riders will then go into a fun and somewhat whippy looking S-curve and then head into a Stangle dive and an S-hump hill that both look fun before going into the final 3 bunny hills, which all look very strong and will end Kondaa off with a bang. As you can see, Walibi Belgium has a true winner on their hands with Kondaa, as it is a coaster with a world-class layout that to me might be the best layout on any coaster on earth, as the number of awesome elements and airtime Intamin was able to pack into this layout is absolutely incredible. That is why I cannot wait to head out to Belgium to ride the one and only Kondaa. What new for 2021 coasters are you most excited for? Which one do you think you will like the most? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you are new, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more coaster and theme park related content, and look out for my next video, which will be the beginning of my Under the Radar coaster series, and the first episode of that series will focus on Seal Dolphin. Also, check out my Coaster Time live streams, which are some of the best coaster related live streams on YouTube. It would also be appreciated if you go and follow me on Instagram at Coaster Hour, check out my coaster quizzes on Sporkle, and join the Coaster Hour Discord with links to all of those being in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time here on Coaster Hour.